Cyber risk is an adaptable and moving risk. According to David Piesse, a global insurance evangelist, the Chief Risk Officer of CYMAR, and an advisory board member of cybersecurity and blockchain provider Guardtime. I'm Lori Chortis for AMBEST TV. In addition to being the cyber specialist on the International Insurance Society's Insights program and the author of 11 white papers on cyber risk, David is slated to moderate a panel on cyber and world trade at the IIS Global Insurance Forum in Singapore. He joins us now from Hong Kong. David, welcome. It's a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Cybersecurity and ensuring world trade. Can you give us a brief overview of this executive panel you are moderating and who the panelists will be?
Yes, so we decided that we need to look at the threats to trade in a global sense, like supply chains and critical infrastructure. So rather than drilling down into a lot of real technical issues on cyber, we thought we'd cover the big political issues that are geopolitical issues, the issues around digitization of supply chains. So we brought together a panel where we have the ex-White House CTO Brian Behlendorf. He's the captain of industry. He was the founder of Apache and Mozilla. He's the head of the Linux Foundation, the Open Source Foundation, which of course is an important part in cyber because of the risks around open source. And he's going to do a short introduction to set the scene for the panel. We then brought in Adam Peckman. Adam Peckman is the head of cyber risk for Asia Pacific for Aon. He's also a global practice leader for Aon. So we get the insurance perspective from him. And we have Peggy Chow. She is the data and cyber lead for Herbert Smith Freehills legal practice. So we'll get the legal aspect. And finally, to represent the customers, we have Steve Tunstall, who is the head of General Secretary of PRIMA, which is the Risk Management Association of Asia, and he will cover the customer standpoint here.
What are some of the issues involved in closing the gap between business leaders and technologies across digitized supply chains?
Yes, so the chief information security officers and the board of directors in businesses do have some gap in how they look at cybersecurity. So this is a boardroom issue. I think that the world is becoming kind of protectionist at the moment, right? So a lot of countries are drawing in. That fragments the economy, the trade, and then opens up more holes for security. So as it's a bit of a paradox because the world is digitizing fast, but countries are drawing in. So we need to try to look at that gap and the insurance protection gap that also arises from that situation.
David, is there a mismatch between customers in the insurance and reinsurance industry in terms of cyber cover and the potential of systemic and accumulation risk?
Yes, I think so. I think the insurance industry has got a better grip on cyber now than, say, about 5 years ago. It's a fast-growing risk for the primary insurers. The reinsurers, of course, have to pick up the long-tail risk. So they're looking at things a little differently. So I think there's a need for more cover at the tail end of this risk, and I think that means new structures like cyber captives, cyber index, cyber cat bonds. Those kind of structures are going to come in to help to close that mismatch. So there's been a time when the premiums increased. The limits went down. Now I think that's stabilizing a bit, but we're in a hard market. So I think there's still a lot to be done. But I think the industry is gradually getting to grips with this risk, but a long way to go.
Looking at parametric insurance, is there a data integrity issue in regard to the parametric insurance in cyber? What's driving that, and what's needed to mitigate or alleviate that?
Yeah, I think data integrity has been the biggest problem with cyber because uh, there is a difference between encryption and data integrity. When everyone knows about antivirus and protection of perimeter, everyone knows about encryption for confidentiality of data, but data integrity is actually looking at where data's been tampered with and be able to put mitigation procedures in on that. That's the whole work that was done in Estonia. So in order to do parametric insurance, you need to have triggers based on data. So you need to know where that data comes from, who accessed it since its inception, and has it been tampered with. And this becomes a kind of fire alarm, if you like, of data. And when it's been tampered with, one can detect it immediately, especially in the cloud, and the world is moving to the cloud. So data integrity becomes the basis of cyber risk mitigation, in fact, and parametric insurance is based on that data.
David, what are some of the key topics surrounding potential cyber risks emanating from generative AI?
Yeah, so cyber is, as I said, an adaptive risk. It's always changing. Um, the, uh, some of the latest cyber attacks have been caused through open source, like for Log4j and Move It. That was a risk. Then there was ransomware. So always new risks coming out. So with the world moving to the cloud, we have a lot of software as a service systems now, right? I mean, like Salesforce, for example, is a SaaS enterprise system in the cloud for managing sales and customers. But there are many of these enterprise systems now, and they often talk to each other, cloud to cloud, enterprise to enterprise. And what the setting sometimes in these SaaS systems can override what a CISO has done in an organization and potentially open up new risks. Now, generative AI is sort of sucks data out of these enterprise systems and to a certain extent can expose the data over and above what a CISO has configured. So misconfiguration in the cloud is a big risk, and it's human error, which of course is a large portion of cyber risk. So I think we need to tighten up on the generative AI and the cyber, and lastly, of course, ChatGPT, for example, can create malware that people can use to attack other systems. So I think some regulation around this would tighten up the cyber problem.
What are you currently seeing around cyber and critical infrastructure mitigation, especially in ports and in marine?
Yes, I think that when it comes to critical infrastructure, um, there's always been a strong emphasis on energy, utilities, nuclear power stations when it comes to cyber. But of course, I think the ports seem to have missed in a lot of in a lot of ways, have missed the cyber mitigation. I think this is because they always had what I call idiosyncratic risk, right? The risk was merely just for that port, but now they're getting digitized. The ports are going into multi-cloud environments, and they're connected more, and that means systemic risk can come in at the port level, and the insurance is probably not covering that risk. There's a protection gap at the port level, and I think a lot of the ports think they're covered for cyber because they've got silent cyber. They've got a lot of cover in property and things like this. But I think there's a big need to pull out the cyber risk as a standalone risk for ports as critical infrastructure before there is some kind of major event, which, as 90% of goods go by sea, there could be a very serious disruption for food security and other issues if the ships can't get into the ports.
What are the prospects of some bespoke solutions, including ILS, in regard to cyber?
Yes, I think that this is especially in regard to what we just talked about on ports. If we take that as an example, many of the ship owners don't have any cyber cover at all because they don't like what is being offered on the market, so they don't take it. So they're all asking for some kind of bespoke cover around what their around their risk. So I think that the ILS market is given the fact we've got the data integrity issue, is a very good solution to that tail risk that we were discussing. Multi-cloud issues, in the cloud, the data is the perimeter. So when you're in the cloud, it's not like when you have a corporation just surrounded by its own perimeter, protecting the organization. When data's in the cloud, everyone's an insider. So that the ILS we can rely on the data to be an actual trigger on real data. We can reduce the emphasis on assumptive modeling. We can have that fire alarm when data is tampered with, and we can actually prevent misconfigurations going in before they go in by using the NIST cyber standards, which the technologists use in order to configure these cloud systems. So I think solutions can be built around this strong mitigation.
And David, any final thoughts to share?
Well, I think we're just looking forward to this panel and get the perspective from these very experienced people. And I think this will be it won't be a technical drill down that confuses everyone. This will be really about the issues of today. Yeah.
Well, David, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, and good luck in Singapore.
Thank you very much indeed. Lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
That was David Piesse, a global insurance evangelist, CIMAR Chief Risk Officer, and Guard Time Advisory Board member. For AM Best TV, I'm Lori Chortis.